If you made one tiny tweak to your life every single week, you'd have made 52 changes over the course of a year. 52 changes in just a year. What kind of impact do you think that would have on your life? Welcome to the Women Rockin Midlife podcast, Soulful Wellness to elevate your second act. The podcast dedicated to empowering midlife women to thrive and rock their way through this transformative phase of life. Hi, I'm your hostess, Jen Kunkel. Join me as we explore this midlife thing together, and I'll guide you on a soulful journey of holistic wellness and self-discovery, ultimately leading you and us to our best, most energetic, most fulfilling life, because that's really what it's all about. It's about living our life to the fullest. This is episode 2. This is only my second episode I'm doing of this podcast, and already I'm thinking of being 300 episodes in and looking back on this and looking at how it all came out, the production quality, and how that's going to improve over time. I'm so excited to have you on this journey with me, both the new podcast journey and the journey of this midlife, navigating all of the things that go along with it. Today, I'm going to talk about something that's another underlying theme, and that is you have this unexpected weight gain and how we can really handle it. There's a lot of different aspects that we'll be talking about over the episodes. Today, I want to talk about the habits that we have and how that actually impacts our level of success in getting weight off, keeping it off, avoiding that weight gain. Have you ever had success with an extreme diet? And you're so excited and you're like, yeah, this is working. This is finally the freaking thing that is helping me lose this menopause weight or this midlife weight or this, I'm just aging and I'm gaining weight. And then you go off the diet, right? You get out of those habits and you end up gaining all that weight back again, maybe even more. That's super frustrating, right? I know because I just went through a similar experience. I wasn't really doing a diet. Several months ago, I don't even remember when it was. It might have even been closer to a year ago. I started feeling that little middle part coming on. Well, that I saw, right? I started feeling tired and sluggish, and I wasn't really exercising or eating as healthy as I'm used to. So I was like, well, I need to get back into some habits. And I started just walking in the morning, and that I could almost feel a difference immediately. I was being more conscious about what I was eating and all of that. So I was getting into these habits. And then I think it was in September of 2022. So I'm a few months into cultivating a few habits and getting healthier, and I'm moving forward, right? At a nice, even slow pace. So I thought I was ready for something more aggressive, even though it goes against my philosophy. I'll talk about that philosophy after I tell you about my story. I decided it would be a good idea to do this program called 75 Hard. Starting in September, I was camping. My neighbor had actually told me about it a while before, and when she said no alcohol was one of the deals, I was like, no, I'm good. I like my glass of wine in the evenings. I'm out. So she lost me at no alcohol. Well, in September, I, for some reason, went back to it, and I was checking it out again and looking at all the details, and it was talking about how it's not really a diet at all. It's actually about developing mental fortitude. And I was feeling like I was slacking a little in that area. We all get there, right? Where we feel like I'm not as focused. I'm not as motivated. I'm just feeling like, I was kind of all over the place. So I thought, hey, let's work on this mental fortitude muscle. And it does involve a diet. So I figured that would help me with that goal as well. So the purpose isn't for weight loss. though most people do lose weight if that is their goal. So I chose a diet. You get to pick your own diet. That's one of the things, right? So I chose a diet that was no sugar. And another part of it is to work out 2 times a day for 45 minutes each. Well, at first I thought that sounds like a lot. And then I remembered, wow, actually, I used to do that all the time. And I sort of was working out twice a day, a lot of days at the time that I decided to do this. I was going for a walk or a hike in the morning, and I wasn't timing it, so I didn't know how long it was. It probably wasn't quite 45 minutes. And then I was going to the gym most afternoons for a pretty short period of time, less than 30 minutes actually. So I just had to up things a little bit. Another thing was to read 10 pages, like with focused intent, drink a gallon of water. Oh, that was the tough one, actually. And then take a daily progress picture. Okay, cool, right? So like I said, I picked the diet of no sugar, and I don't know if I mentioned this part, but no fake foods. I'm going to get into what that means as far as fake foods in another episode. Basically, like staying away from processed things that have ingredients that we have a hard time pronouncing, those big long words. So that was my diet that I chose. So I made this decision on a camping trip, and I thought, oh, I'll start Monday because I don't have everything I need here. Well, I actually did, because we were camping with my family, and in my mom's camper, she had a few books. So I found one that I could get started with so I could do the reading, because that was really the only part that I didn't think I had everything for. So I did. So I started it. I also did the 75 Hard program over Halloween, over a 4-day trip out of town with friends, over Thanksgiving, and over Christmas. When I originally started, I was going to be finished the day before Christmas Eve, I think, if I didn't start over. I did actually start over twice at the beginning over a couple of silly mistakes. So I ended up doing it all the way up to the day before New Year's Eve, because I was like, ooh, if I have to start over again, I'm not sure if I'm actually going to start over. I might just call it a fail. And I really didn't want to do that. So I was super, super committed to this short-term goal, right? Just do these things over these amount of days. And my objective wasn't really weight loss at the time. It was the mental fortitude, knowing that I could stick to this commitment no matter what. That was the whole point. It really wasn't actually that difficult, okay? I finished the day before New Year's Eve, and I can say, whoo, yay, because I could party New Year's Eve then. Honestly, though, I didn't really care about the alcohol at that point. I've gone off alcohol before, and it got me into a phase where I didn't really care about that. What I did want when I was done, though, was the homemade caramel turtle cheesecake that my brother made at Christmas. We had 2 giant pieces in the freezer, and one of them had my name on it. I also had a small piece of a blueberry cheesecake that he made, and another cheesecake that my cousin's neighbor had made, because I wanted to compare the two. Now, my brother makes phenomenal cheesecake, and turns out his was better. Shh, don't tell her. There's like a lot of sugar around when I get off this thing. There's Christmas candies left over, and some of them I really love. I love chocolate. That's kind of my downfall. Chocolate and peanut butter. I eat the healthy kind of peanut butter, though, the natural kind. So when I talk about fake food, I'm going to say those other kinds, the kinds we ate when we were kids. Those will fall in the fake food category for me for sure, because of some of the ingredients in them. With all this cheesecake and candy laying around, the sugar thing took a turn for the worse. All right, so the crazy part about sticking to the 75 hard was really the only thing that I found hard was the water, and I still just did it. I made sure I did it. On that road trip, though, we were driving to some place that was like 6 or 7 hours away with this other couple, and I was like, oh my gosh, I am gonna have to bug them to stop every freaking hour. Well, it was okay, because they liked to stop frequently anyway, so it worked out. The rest of the program didn't seem that hard to me, and it wasn't that it wasn't hard, that it wasn't challenging, that I didn't have to really figure some things out, like when to work out on some days. And I would say that the reason is because I really went all in. I really made the commitment. I knew there was an end date, okay? I knew that this was just a short-term thing that I'm committing to until this date, so many days. And then I was done. Then the commitment was over. So you know how they say that it's easy to do, anybody can do anything for 30 days or whatever. Well, turns out I can do anything for 75 days. I mean, I don't know about anything. I had decided in my mind that this was going to happen no matter what. And I did whatever I needed to do to make sure that happened. So on paper, I developed mental fortitude. In reality, in the big picture, that effect pretty much faded. I hadn't lost a massive amount of weight. I think it was around 15 pounds. And then after I was done, I kept saying I'd stop sugar again. And I didn't. I like chocolate. I like to have a little bit of sugar every now and then. In fact, there was a time that everybody was talking about how bad sugar was for you, and I didn't believe it. I was like, you know what? I get it if it's like the high fructose corn syrup. Yeah, that's not great. But the natural sugar, it's fine, keep it to a minimum and it's okay. What I wasn't realizing is sugar is super processed and it does things to your body that are not in your best interest health-wise. And we'll be talking about that a lot more in another episode too. I'm going to see if I can bring on a guest to talk about that. All right, so I kept saying I'd stop sugar again, and I didn't because I like sweets. I got into this habit of sweets, and that is difficult to break. During that same time when I had just finished doing 75 hard and transitioning to back to just normal habits that I'm going to take on for a lifetime, which I did not want to say I'm 100% never going to eat sugar again. So during that time, also life happened and it made wanting to get back to healthy eating even harder. My stepdad was sick and I went to see him at the hospital every day for a couple weeks or so. And on my way, I'd get up really early because I wanted to make sure that I was there early enough to catch the doctors on their rounds and ask questions and get some answers for what was going on with him. Well, instead of making myself breakfast, I'd stop at the 7-Eleven, I'd grab a cheap foo-foo coffee and an apple fritter or cookies instead of taking the time to make something healthy. In both instances, when I did 75 hard and then after I was done, I was developing habits. When I did 75 hard, I committed to habits that did support my health. When I finished it, I started creating habits again that were worse than what I even had before because it was becoming a daily thing to get this coffee and either cookies or a donut or a fritter or something like that. Those habits were not supporting my health. So here's the deal. In both cases, the habits I created were choices. It's always a choice. I was not under some sort of spell where I didn't know what I was doing. I knew what I was doing and I chose what I chose. And I still kept saying, okay, tomorrow I won't have the coffee. Tomorrow I won't stop and get the treats. And tomorrow just never comes. I'm sure you've done that too. I chose the sweet taste of yummy cookies over making a commitment to put healthy food into my body. And in reality, because of what was going on, I was most likely eating my emotions, soothing frustration, soothing worry, soothing sadness, all with sugar. And even with that, it was still a choice. It might have been a choice that I wasn't fully conscious of at the time. I was partially conscious to it, though, I'll tell you that. So what happened with this instance, with this whole scenario that I just told you about, the 75 hard and then the coming off of it, what happened here is evidence of something that I've believed for a very long time, that small changes over time are much more effective than drastic changes all at once. In fact, the drastic changes tend to end up having backlash, rebound. You go back to the bad habits or even worse because you felt deprived for so long. If the drastic changes, the healthy changes that you make were only intended to last a short period of time, like with 75 hard or with an extreme diet where you're just cutting calories massively for a long period of time, or a short period of time rather, or you are cutting out entire food groups for a certain period of time. You have that mentality, that diet mentality, that there's an end point. So it's easy to commit to something when you know that it's only short term. On the flip side, with small changes over time, with healthy habits that you really want to integrate, the idea there is that it's a lifelong lifestyle change. So if you make a smaller commitment, it's easier for you to say, I'm going to do this forever. If you make these drastic changes and then you tell yourself, I'm going to do this forever, you're going to be on overload. That does not work, okay? And then when you have life circumstances going on that make things harder, like I did, that's even more challenging. The healthy habits that I had developed during 75 Hard weren't actually habits at all. They were commitments that had an end date. They weren't habits that I was planning on having for the rest of my life. Because even though I said no sugar and no alcohol for this period of time, I knew at some point I was going to want a glass of red wine in the evening. Even though I don't drink a lot, I like to have a red wine or a nice craft beer with my dinner every once in a while. I like those things, and I was not agreeing to give them up forever. Even sugar, I was not agreeing that I would never have sugar again for the rest of my life, because I like some things with sugar in them. And then what happened was I deprived myself of that so drastically in such an extreme way that I ended up going overboard. Tell me if you've done that before, right? Yes, you have, I'm sure. If you haven't, I want to meet you. So with a short-term extreme approach, we get this all or nothing mentality, and it's all at once. It's really not sustainable. There's almost nothing else in the world we expect ourselves to accomplish all at once except switching to healthy habits. People go on diets all the time and think, okay, I'm going to do this finally, and it's going to yield permanent results. I'm going to do this extreme thing and I'm going to get permanent lifelong results from it. That isn't how it works. People expect to go from eating fast food at every meal to salad at every meal. I mean, obviously that's another extreme example, but you get the idea. Everything changes at once. Eating healthy and then working out on top of it. You're like trying to pile on countless healthy habits all at once. Think about this. What other goal or change does anybody expect to happen literally overnight? Like literally overnight. You say, I'm going to start my diet tomorrow. Meaning you're going to start eating every meal healthy, not putting anything unhealthy in your mouth. Maybe you agree to have one cheat meal. That's a thing too, the cheat meal. We'll talk about that another time, but cheat meal mentality can also cause you to go overboard. But if I'm opposed to the diet thing, the extreme diet, then you won't need a cheat meal with this method anyway. All right. So you're expecting all of these habits to just be in place overnight. And when you fall short, you feel like a failure. You feel like you messed up. So I might as well just throw this whole day out. I already messed up and I'll start again tomorrow. Like you have to be perfect every single day in order to make progress. There is no messing up, okay? Think about that. Who tries to incorporate 50 habits in one day? We all do it. It's the whole diet industry. Imagine if you let yourself off the hook on being perfectly healthy from day one. I mean, geez, Like maybe you were just scarfing down 3 chili cheese dogs yesterday, so no reasonable person should expect you to eat kale salad at every meal today, right? That's what people try to do though. Yet you wouldn't run a marathon tomorrow when all you can do today is a 10-mile walk. You wouldn't expect someone to play guitar like Stevie Ray Vaughan the day after they pick up the instrument for the very first time. You wouldn't ask someone to marry you on a first date. New things take time to marinate, and healthy habits are no different. Healthy habits, eating right, working out, that's like 3 things at once right there, and it all takes time. Here's the thing though, it actually doesn't have to be a lot of time. Let's say you add 1 small healthy habit every week. That would be 52 new healthy habits in a year. One should really think about how much difference that would make in your life. You give yourself a week to really acclimate and absorb to this new habit, right? To the new healthy habit, whatever it is. Maybe you just get up 10 minutes earlier and go for a walk. Maybe you just do as many push-ups as you can as soon as you get out of bed. If it starts with 5 and it goes up, great. Think about adding little things like that are simple and easy to do. And if you think 1 week isn't long enough to incorporate a small habit, even if you only did 1 new habit per month, that would still be 12 new healthy habits in a year. That sounds pretty doable, doesn't it? And still highly impactful. I mean, it's more than you're doing now, right? So bottom line here, small tweaks made consistently lead to predictable results that last, lead to healthy habits that last. That brings me to this episode's challenge question to contemplate. Contemplate this, or better yet, write it down, especially this one, because this is very actionable. What is 1 tiny tweak that you can make this week to implement into your daily routine? 1 healthy habit that you are committed to starting, and start small. Make it something super, super easy. Think of that habit, write it down. Maybe brainstorm a few different habits that you could do and pick one. Then you still have your list of habits that you can go back to next week or in 2 weeks or next month, whatever you feel comfortable with. You can even just say, okay, once I've made this tiny tweak a habit, that's when I'm going to pick a next habit. Pick a second one. I'm starting to do this routinely, just like brushing my teeth. And then pick another one. Now for this first habit and for each one after, here's what I want you to do to solidify it. I want you to declare when, where, and how you will do it. And I want you to schedule it. Schedule it in your calendar. Then I want you to think about what's going to be your reward for doing this. Is there some small, prize or activity or treat? And I don't mean treat by like, go get some cookies. Something nice for yourself, something that you enjoy, some little reward that you can do. And then how are you going to make it easy for yourself? So if your goal is to take a 10-minute walk in the morning, have your walking shoes right by the bed. So you roll out of bed and you put on your walking shoes and your walking clothes. 1 tiny tweak that you can make this week, when, where, and how you'll do it, what your reward will be, how you'll make it easy, and schedule that on your calendar with a reminder. If you have enjoyed this episode and you know someone else who will get value out of it as well, pass it along to them. I really appreciate your support, and have a fantastic day. Much love. Let's rock this midlife thing.